In this video, I'll show you how you can use FIGAF together with Git and IntelliJ to build integration flows and create and manage Groovy flows. So here I have my FIGAF installation. I have a new trial tenant with just one iFlow in just to make it a little faster. Good. And I have connected this to my agent. Here it is defined, and what I want to do now is I want to create a Git repository. One trial. So we have a simple name. It is a private one. We don't really want anyone else to see it. And then we say create repository. Now we get a license URL. And that's all good. And we can go here to our Git integration suite. We can go to the Git configuration. We can say enable remote URL branch. It's not really needed here. You can put anything in. And then the username, password. Username is your Git credentials, as I recall it. And then the password, that it depends a little on where you get it and what's going on with your repository, but in general, you will find it on the developer settings here. Secrets, you can obviously see it already. It is under my user, I think it is here. Settings. Here you have a developer settings. Here you have a personal auth token. You get a new fine grade token. And then we say here, FIGAF. New FIGAF trial. Expiration date in 30 days. That's good for this for a select repository. And this repository is this 25 trial. And then we need some repository permissions. And here we need to have write content, read write to content. I think that is all you need. We say generate the token, generate token, and now we get a token here. We can copy this token back into the FIGAF and say save it. So now we have saved it, and we need to check if it works. Skip synchronization of iFlows in Git. Update Gradle, we just add all of these things and press save. Okay, now obviously it's interesting to see if it works. To do that, we go here and say, no, not copy. We say re-init Git repository. This will do a synchronization. So obviously, if you have a large integration repository, this will take some time. If it's a small, it would be faster. And that you can see it does take a little longer because it's hopefully creating our Git repository. And obviously, you should also be able to do the test configuration here. And here it will also see that the Git configuration is working. So if we go to the Git repository now, we can now see that it already have all of our iFlows in, and it has Gradle templates, etc. All the things that we would need for us to use this. So that's pretty good. In 3 minutes. So creating repository. So at least when you're working on this, if you're using a enterprise repository, you may need to get an approval to create this this token key for it. So that's good. So now we have our repository. The next thing is we want to include this in our Git workflow and see if we can actually edit and run this Groovy script. To do that, I prefer IntelliJ. This is just a community edition. I say open new project from Git, and let's see if it figures out which one to select and connect me. Sign in with your browser. Do you want this window? That's fine. I trust project, and we need to select which Gradle version to use. And I think in general, I will probably be using download Gradle. I would use 17. Right, so then used to be some other ones we can select, or 10. Here we can select, so let's add 17. And let's open Eclipse, download it. So now it should hopefully download all the artifacts regarding this. So we can see it has downloaded the project. I would have, we have some external libraries, that's also a part of it. So here we can see, so now we can see this, the structure of this. We can see the different packages we have. We can see a documentation Excel that is being created, which is the documentation for this scenario. And I don't have an Excel processor here yet, so it's a pretty new computer. So what we see here is we're getting this Gradle plugin that enables us to communicate with the system, and we are getting this Gradle ERT.properties. We need to copy this one, so we copy the file. And change the IRT. And to do this and get this to work, we would then need to specify how to log in with this. I think in general it would be using this IDP. We have some IDP secrets and client IDs here that needs to be added. And this is obviously something we would use locally. So I think it's creating this OAuth token. And if you go back to the FIGAF tool, OAuth clients, you can see that this has been created that has all of this properties set up. So that is all good. Okay, so if we want to run this, then it's obviously something that takes a little while to still downloading. But to do that, before we can create a test, we need to have a test case for it. So the idea is we can go into our integration object. Here we can go in and select the test case, and we can create a test case. So there's different ways we can create test cases for. Right now I'm just using the one where you're updating files, but if we had an instance of the iFlow running, we could also create a test case based on that, and that's obviously how most would be doing this. So we just put in an XML file for this. Just a sec. So now I've added a file here. We select both as input and output payload. We will come with some better options later, but for now this is the best option we have, at least if we want to create the test case from here. We will then create the test case, and we now have a test case, and then we can run it. So we'll run it. It needs a demo license for it. And we can open the result. The method was sent with error. I think that is probably okay because something may not be configured correctly. Well, there is something else going on. Deployment of iFlow failed. Let me just fix that first. So yeah, I forgot to deploy it. And now we can see we're actually getting a lot of payload from this, and we don't really want this specific one. So we can just go in and we can select all of the entries except this one. And then we'll go in and say, let's update the test case and using this as the example. There's also different ways to create test cases, and one of the things you will see is here in our with CPI helper, we would be able to see that we can actually just create this in VGAF. So here, if we look at messages, we can see that this was sent in trace mode, and we have the F logo here that enable us to go to VGAF with this. Okay, so how do we actually then work with this? So it's good we have a test case, we can run it as many times as we like and see if it is producing correct results. But what else can we do with it? So one of the things we often see is we need to find a way to edit some Groovy scripts. So here we have some Groovy scripts here. And let's just take one of these. So set headers 3. I don't think this is the most important one. So we can see here we have an IDE that is missing up here. This is really useful for a lot of scenarios and where you want to do editing. And to enable this, you go to change tracking tool and here say enable IDE and press save. And this will then enable it. And that means if you go here to the tracked object again, open the set headers 3, you now got an IDE. Here you have an option to select your test case that you already have. Also, this one is not really used in our flow, which should probably be cleaned up. Let's do set header 2, see if that one is used. No worries, we'll just take a random message. So we can go in and select any message here, and we can then run it, and we can see the result of this. And as it runs on the integration suite. So this is really a good way to check your Groovy script and see how they run. And this is definitely the part that I'll be recommending most users to take. So it is looking at a variable that is somehow not connected. Let me just find a real script that is used. So the way obviously then is to go into CPI helper, change the VGAF URL to appvgaf.com or where you're running the VGAF tool. Now when you open is set headers 2, you then get this part and you can see open here in the VGAF tool. All good. So we can see here the ID, and now we should be able to select an iFlow, so we can see there's only one that's selected. We can run it and we can see if it produces the right data. And if we just simplify and do a change here and run it again, we would then see the result is different and we need to make a change. So let's just make a change here. So let's add it here, let's run it again. And we should then see it is creating this here in the webinar demo set header up here under the set headers. Webinar demo trial, we say upload, and this will then upload it into the integration suite and we can work with it there. Besides this, it would also be pushed into our Git repository. So we can actually see here that there was a new Git commit on the object integration flow with this data. And here we can see the change that happened. So that's pretty cool. But we wanted to do testing of these things. And one of the things we can do is to go to our test cases here. We have open it, go to testing messages here. Test messages. So this is all the test data we have. We have an item here that's called Groovy script, and we can say either download this or add to the Git repository. We'll add it to the Git repository because that is the coolest part of this, and that enables us to put it into the Groovy repository. And that means if we go back here and check the next, we have another commit. Test cases were added for this, all the different test frameworks that's being added. And that means if we go here, back to the IntelliJ, and say git pull. I guess it's just doing any of these. And so one of the things we'll see is we got 2 new commits. We got some common stuff here. And we got in our iFlow here, in our fast iFlow, we have all our test cases here. That's not, they're set up as a test case. That means if we go here, oh, and then we're also using set header 2. So here we can see it is updated to this specific value. And we're getting some Groovy script here. And then obviously the fun part starts, whether or not this would work or not. So we need to run the set header 2 test cases. So here it comes with some pre-delivered test cases. So we'd run the Groovy script here. There is a fairly large chance that it would not work because we were missing something on this. Some different properties that would be needed to be set up. Okay, so we fixed the problem. The problem was that we were using a wrong Gradle version up here. For some reason, the old one, 7, was no longer supported. Once that was done, we could clean, and we could then build everything again. It would then download all the Gradle versions, and hopefully we will also get this sorted out pretty soon. But that means we can now go into our iFlow here. We can set a breakpoint. And then once we go into our test here, we go in and we say, hey, run this in. We can either just run it, stop and run. And once it runs, it's initiating. We can see it's processing these things. Test failed, so we're getting something about it expected some different values in this compared to what it was getting, and maybe it's because we have changed some of the versions that were not really expected in it. So you can see here in an output payloads that's being used both in an input and output payload. So obviously we were expecting a Kiwi webinar demo. It should have been this, but it was this because we changed it. And the cool thing here is also if you go in, you can select and set a breakpoint at any point in time. And then you can go to the test Groovy and just say, hey, let's run it in debug. And we will see what is going on in this scenario here. And here we can see all the details that we have here. We have the console. We can do a lot of stuff here. We can see the details that we have. Sometimes you can make modifications. You can see all the header properties you have. Whatever, all the different scenarios you want in such a landscape. So that makes it really easy. We also do have an option here in the plugin that will enable you to upload some of the content and run it. Generally, it's not something you need to be fairly well advised around these things, but you would see here a task here that says CPI plugin that says upload. That would upload to the integration suite. It does require you have a different version of the tool and have set up a different login criteria for it to work. So this will probably fail because we did not set that up. Maybe it worked. So we are getting permission denied. User pair was invalid. So there is definitely something about you can fix these Gradle settings, Gradle properties to make sure that it works depending on which scenario you have, if you're using SAP passports, etc. But this really, just shows it is fairly simple to get started. Getting a full Git repository for all these things, having everything in the IDE. And notice we did not need to connect to integrations. We download any repositories. We have up here in the main function all the mocks that we would need for this to work. So you don't really need to create download all of these extra files, and this just makes it a lot simpler to run. And you can then add your own test cases to these tests, and you can also set these tests up to be run as a part of the pipeline, as part of the delivery process. We generally don't recommend you merge into this or pull only if you do changes on test cases, etc. You can add those to the repository, but in general, we believe that all changes should happen via the FIGAF tool, because that is where you will get most data access for it. And then obviously, if you run the test cases, where did it go? You would also be able to see a report of how the test ran, all the different scenarios you had, etc. So if we just run it. Just run everything. And you can run on multiple different levels. Delete. Okay. So it does require, the tools around it for using. And that's why we do think most developers is fine with using the standard. Here we can see some of the test reports that's being created of the tool after such a scenario. So that's why we think the Groovy IDE in the FIGAF tool makes this a lot easier for you to run these scenarios in. I hope you enjoyed this, could see the benefit and where this would make sense in your specific scenario, how you're dealing with your SAP integration, etc. So do give it a try, do see how this can leverage your development process. Hope you like this.